Hey, good morning. All right, y'all. Welcome back to another M30M live stream. Today, I'm actually excited for this model. It's me sculpting a really classic, pretty fairy, specifically in some ballet dancer poses. So this will be a nice one. It's gonna be a bit of a shorter stream for me today. Probably heading out around 12:30, so an hour and a half, because I'm gonna stock up on hay for the winter. So yeah, that's what I'll be doing, and most of my day is just baling hay. Okay, I got my coffee. I got my layout all set up. So let's kind of take a closer review at what this Patreon request is going to entail. All right, so this is from Tim Wolf, another Patreon supporter. And Tim says, hey, I'm not sure if this has been requested yet. Would it be possible to sculpt a fairy in the following poses? 1, dancing, preferably in a ballet position like second arabesque, and 2, sitting on a ledge. I'm making a small desk fountain, and I want to have a small fairy figures in and around it to make it look like an enchanted fairy pond. So that's just lovely, and we're gonna start bringing that vision to life today. So I'm not sure which one of these is second arabesque, because they're slightly different. I think one would be a variation of the other. When I was a very little girl, I did ballet, but I know very, very simple things. I know we never went on point or anything because I was 6 years old. So, fun fact. All right, let's get started. I'm gonna set my timer for 30 minutes and let's see how much we can get done. I'm gonna throw this stamp up here at the top as our starting point. First thing I'm gonna do is run through my asset library and see if there's any pieces that will complement what we're creating today. I like these images a lot. I think this hairstyle will be perfect. It's very sweet, very simple. Like always, we'll be adjusting all of these assets to best complement the model and the design. But a lot of these pieces, I'll probably just be making from scratch today. Let's see if there's a bodice that fits nicely. Ooh, I like this a lot, and I haven't really decided what type of fairy I want this to be. He wants it to be part of this, almost like an enchanted fairy garden pond kind of thing. So I think it'd be nice to make it a bit leafier, a bit more on the nature side. Hey, Aloha is here. Hi everyone, hope you're doing good. Yeah, good morning. Thanks for tuning in. It's always good to see familiar usernames. All right, let's bring in this piece. I actually used this for my Ice Queen quite some time ago. And then let's see, there is a base I made recently for a goblin archer actually, and she came out really cute, and I liked the base mesh I made for that. I know it's in front of me, I just can't see it. And I'll probably have her barefoot. You know, I think I'm gonna construct it from scratch actually. Excuse me. All right, let's go ahead and put the wings in early on. I have some really cute, really classic style wings that I'd like to add here. I have some more detailed butterfly wings here, but I don't think they're gonna suit the model as well. All right, that's just the beginning stages, kind of flew through that. Now it's time to really start putting these pieces together and then sculpting all of our new things. Oh, Walt's here. Greetings, fellow humans. Yeah, good morning. Always good to see you come back. And Aloha says, can we get a horse update this morning? Oh, of course. So in about an hour and a half or so, I will be headed out early to actually buy hay for the winter. The next cutting is going to be usually very end of spring. So maybe May or June when they cut next. So obviously he eats throughout winter. They actually eat a lot more during winter. But Spartan is doing fantastic. For a while there, he had this really minor, it's kind of like a skin infection on the base of one of his hooves, and that took forever to clear up. He didn't care. He was very indifferent about it, but I was very particular about keeping it dry and stuff, and I'm really happy that I got it all dried out and cleaned out before it gets all mucky, because it's been raining a decent amount out here. But yeah, he has just been a happy horse, and our neighbors recently got a little filly. Oh, shit goodness. I don't think she's even a year yet. But they don't share the same pasture or anything, but they hang out over the fence because they share a fence line, so he's enjoyed hanging out with her. He's been very sweet, and I'm glad because some horses aren't very nice to babies. I haven't got a picture of him recently, but he has the most ridiculous fluffy fur coat. Just like all animals, they usually bulk up in the winter. The bigger the animal, the more noticeable it can be. And he's a very fluffy horse right now. Excuse me, I got like extra scratchy voice today. Well, it says, I'll be bouncing in and out here today. Busy day at work, but nice to have this on the side screen. Well, I'm honored to be at your side screen real estate. All right, we've roughly thrown these pieces on here. Nothing quite fitting right. So let's amend that. Also, I'm gonna clear my throat. 1 second. That should be better. All right, let's get a color scheme. I think these light foresty greens would be just beautiful. And then maybe like a rich, kind of like a reddish brown for her hair. There we go. So my base mesh here is actually pretty muscular. And if you guys have been around any ballerinas or dancers in your life, you'll know that they're actually very strong and very fit. So I'm going to leave a lot of this tone on her body, even though it's like, oh, she's a dainty fairy. I actually think she'd be fairly fit. I'm going to change my paintbrush here to this drag rectangle, and that really helps me get these nice buttery shades in here without a whole lot of effort. Yeah, how nice is that? I'm also going to shorten up the spot a bit here because I'm going to have this really pretty like flowing pieces of the skirt. It's going to be very tutu-esque, and she will be in a classic ballet pose. Aloha says, is anyone else really excited for Monster Hunter Wilds? I'm hoping for more bear-like creatures. Oh goodness, I am so excited. I don't know if you guys watched the Game Awards last night, but they were actually like extremely good, and the new Witcher game got not just announced, but like teased. You actually get to see it. If you haven't seen the trailer, I highly recommend you guys watch it. And we'll be playing as Ciri, or at least she gets to be a main pivotal point in the next trilogy. So they also confirmed an additional 3 games. So freaking out about that. That was great. And then at the very end of the Game Awards, something absolutely unexpected happened, and they released the sequel to Okami, which is insane. Like, that's one of my favorite games of all time. Essentially, you play as like a celestial wolf, and you paint things. That's a terrible explanation of it. But anyway, the game came out in 2006. It's been like 20 years, so it's a big deal that it's getting a sequel. The studio that actually made Okami was Clover Studio, and they went out of business. They were under Capcom, so they have made a new studio called Clover's Studio, and they'll be making the sequel, and I am so excited. I'll definitely let my Patreon supporters know about it, because I have a couple people on Patreon that aren't very picky about their requests, and if I kind of mention like, hey, like this is a really cool like subject that I'm passionate about, usually someone put in a request that's similar to it, and nobody asked, but I'm gonna show you guys. This is the game and the art style. Like this is what the game looks like. It's very painterly and it's just beautiful. So again, this came out darn near 20 years ago. Originally out on PlayStation 2. It's been, you know, like remastered HD and whatever, but I'm so excited about this. Yeah, the Game Awards were a lot more like E3-esque than I expected. I thought it'd just be like a couple games that get mentions or whatever, but no, it was really, really cool. My husband and I both were not expecting it to be that awesome and also that long. It was like 3.5 hours. But along that thread about video games and stuff, there wasn't any mention about Monster Hunter Wilds, but that makes sense because it's announced, it has a release date, we all know about it and stuff. I think that comes out February 11th, if I remember correctly. Extremely excited about that. It's about time for me to replay Worlds again. I immensely enjoyed Rise, but World is still my favorite. I think that's the case for most people. But there's a lot of like quality of life stuff that they implemented in Monster Hunter Rise that I really enjoy. And now that you mention it, Aloha, I don't think there really is a whole lot of bear type monsters. I'm thinking of like the giant bunny. Oh, I can't remember what his name is. It's like a giant rabbit. Yeah. Alright, let's make her features a bit more fairy-esque. As of now, she's just reading very human. So first thing I'm going to do is give her this classic elf ears. So I'm going to mask just the top of her earlobe and go in my Transpose Master brush. And click and drag. Let's go ahead and rotate them out a bit so they're not so awkwardly tucked in. And there we are. I'm going with my pinch brush and just clean this up a bit. And now let's play with these forms just a bit more. I want her ears to be very noticeable, so I'm going to go ahead and make them larger. I'll just mask the entire ear, go with my 3D gizmo, and there we are. Excuse me. Oh, Voxel's back. Hello, and non-sleeper. And then Volt asked, has anyone ever played Journey? I haven't, but I'm very familiar with it. I think my husband actually played it when I was around. I played Abzu, which is kind of similar. And then Volt mentions, it's good, it's only 2 hours to complete, and the soundtrack is awesome. Yeah, it is just a beautiful game. Aloha says, I recently got a bunch of books I want to use as art inspiration, ranging from comic book hero anatomy to gothic history. I was wondering if you had any books to use for inspiration. Oh, all the time. Mini books. I buy a lot of video game art books, so not surprisingly, I have the Dragon Age Belguard art book. I'm also looking over there. I also have the one for the Gwent card game, which is a game within the Witcher games, which has now become its own standalone thing in the past years. And then I have Horizon Zero Dawn, and then I can't read that other one. But yes, I usually have a lot of art books from video games I super enjoy. And then for my birthday or for Christmas last year, my husband got me this like ancient like creature anatomy, like as if it talks about like creature anatomy and skeletons as if they're real. It's just a really cool, fun book, kind of like in a gothic style. All right, so we're giving her more of like those classic fairy features. So I'm gonna give her a smaller mouth, kind of a pursed expression. Her hair is kind of sitting on her head weird, and that's because it's perfectly flat up here. It should have a more distinct dip here where that center line is. So let's go ahead and carve that down and then bring these forms up on the sides. Yeah, I think it's just sitting on her head too closely. Yeah, that's why. I like going in transparency mode when looking at hair, and I can actually see how everything is fitting. Excuse me, goodness. Looks pretty good. And I can go with my Move topological brush and I can go through this base mesh of hair that I have. I can actually start pulling out individual strands. Alrighty. It's been a while since I've made like a classically just like pretty model, so I'm having a really good time. Her expression looks a little sneery right now, so I'm going to make her look a little more friendly. Upturn her lips just a bit, and then bring up her cheekbones. There we go. It's like a sweeter, more friendly expression. Get that classic curve to the tip of her nose, and again pushing those cheekbones out and forward, also because she has like a gentle like a smile expression right now. Gonna make her chin a bit smaller here. Go into a lower subdiv to make sure that none of these deformations get too lumpy. There we go. And I'll probably put something in her hair and more decorations and stuff as we go. Aloha says, the Arcane series art book sold out instantly on Amazon, which was expected. I'd love to see you modeling in that style too. Oh, me too. And that one's different because that's a definitely more stylized look. I have played around with it in my free time, and I've got some pretty good results before. So fairies have that very like severe, sharp jawline, but the rest of it's very classic and very pretty. So it's important to be careful here to not get too strong of a look. I'm gonna carve out that jawline and then smooth on one side. It's kind of more like a landmark for me to reference as I continue sculpting here. There we go. Now she has that really like exaggerated little pointed chin. Might go ahead here and soften this up a bit. There we go. And then adding a little more volume to her cheeks. Softening her eyebrows. Beautiful. And I'm going to add a bit more of an indentation on the corners of her mouth. Not too much, because we don't want her looking Joker-esque. Just a small little upturn. I'm going to go with my paintbrush here and connect these corners. And add a little bit more blush. You can never have too much blush. I'm going to also add some blush to her shoulders, her collarbones, elbows, and fingertips. There we go. All right, it's time to start fashioning like this skirt here. Aloha says, this character reminds me of Kaga from Baldur's Gate 3. Hopefully much more friendly than Kaga, but I could see it. I've seen different things on that, like where like Kaga gets a bad rap and stuff, and I'm like, look, there are so many other ways to go about that, and she just made a lot of bad decisions back after back. Also, Halcyon must have been gone for that long. She's like, cool, I'm taking over, and then making a deal with like Shadow Clan immediately. I'm like, girl, you were gone. Like, you were left in charge for like a day. It really does look kind of like a younger, sweeter Kaga. Now I can't unsee that. That's a good thing, though. Here, I don't want the... Let's do the darker spots on the inside of the wings. It kind of acts as like a natural, like, ambient occlusion look, too. Yeah. Then maybe a little bit, some complementary colors in here too. Some yellows would be nice. Very nice. Sometimes it's like the simplest color palettes that are the most successful. And then Aloha, first of all, talking about Baldur's Gate 3, in case y'all are wondering. Aloha says, Kaga really had the audacity to pull that stunt in the grove like we wouldn't notice or intervene. Right? I was so surprised. Like, I solved that. So I played Baldur's Gate. I think I've beat the game once, but I've played through almost the whole thing twice. And then I also started a new playthrough with my husband where he makes his own decisions, but I end up actually playing the game because I find the combat more fun. Because it is very D&D-esque. And he's playing as a drow ranger named Brome, so that's been a lot of fun. But it's cool how many different ways you can resolve the grove conflicts. That's been pretty cool. So I actually like these wings so much, and even like they're so simple. They're really effective though. I think I'm gonna start fashioning her like skirt and like this tutu I'm gonna make here out of these leaves. There's a few adjustments I need to do first. One, I need to reduce the poly count. Let's bring it down to like 15. And then two, just for my own peace of mind, I'll make these segments even thicker. So as I'm layering them, I don't have to worry about it as much for 3D printing. Let's go ahead and bulk that up. There we are. All right, so now I have this piece. We can start creating this like tutu that I'm thinking about. So for this to be the most successful, it'd be most like visually interesting if we had like a hierarchy of forms here. So we'll have like lots of small pieces of detail around her hips and her shoulders, and then as it gets farther down her body, they'll get longer. And that also will influence this really nice, elegant silhouette. And I only need to do one side because then I can just mirror and weld. Let me go ahead and see exactly how far I can crush that down, because there's gonna be a lot of this piece. Aloha says, I like the more tone and muscle look on thinner characters, especially when they'd be physically strong if it was in real life with all their combat experience. Same. So initially I did it just because I don't think it was super intentional. It was just like I wasn't really skilled on making like more like thinner bodies. I just had like one type I was used to sculpting. And then now I've gone full circle where I can sculpt any kind of body, but it's also the most fun to paint, I find. Instead of just like painting perfectly smooth skin. So now I'm going through and I'm duplicating this piece, and I'm able to do this very quickly by using the 3D gizmo. If you hold Command and drag, you get a new piece. I'm gonna hide the wings in the back just temporarily here. And it's gonna be about 2 layers of this shortest and smallest segments. All right. Able to do that pretty quickly. Instead of just a mirror and weld, I'm going to duplicate it into its own piece first. And that's just to prevent any weird clipping or artifacts that might form. All right, so duplicate and mirror. All right, so we've got a little bit of a poof, like a little tutu here. And then I can actually take these pieces again and merge them down. So now I have this individual piece here. And just like really quick test, I'm curious if I can just drag it straight down and get an interesting, nice shape. Yep, that's me, very pretty. It's looking a bit more like feathers, but I kind of like it. I think I might just want this in the back. And I might keep it asymmetrical, actually. And this is gonna be really, really pretty once we get this pose all done too. I also want these pieces by her shoulder. I know I'm neglecting the chat right now. I'm just kind of in a zone. I'll be checking in very shortly. My timer only has a minute left on it, so. So yeah, it's crazy that all these pieces I'm making her look like leaves is actually just her wings that I've moved around. And then let's see if I can make a quick little hair ornament in this last 12 seconds here. I want that to be asymmetrical, just on one side. Though if I mirror it, it will look kind of like a crown, which could be really pretty. Well, that turned out nice. All right, that kind of came together really, really quickly in the last like 2 minutes. All right, that's my 30 minutes. Excuse me. And then Sentence here. Hi, the fairy is looking awesome. Thank you. Let me go ahead and pause. Any ads that might show up here. Although it says, by the way, I want to thank you for your last stream tips on creating a library to pull assets from. I think having days where I model small, helpful accessories and odd pieces can improve so much. Absolutely. And it's nice because you kind of find new techniques when you kind of like zero in on making one asset really strong, like a really nice ring, for example, or a crown. So yeah. Taylor says, don't mean to be contrarian, as a contrarian would say. But would a fairy really be working their muscles in combat? I've always viewed them as ethereal. I mean, it really depends, but this one specifically is going to be in classic ballet poses, and ballet is hard as hell, so she would need to be strong. Aloha says, it's a good point, Taylor. I think they also would still be physically fit and more toned. Absolutely. Because at the end of the day, like, they are, like, wild creatures, you know? So they're just getting more general exercise because they have to, like, move to survive, as opposed to like us sitting at home being comfy and doughy and making art. And then B here says the knee anatomy though, right? That's just on this base mesh and it looks very nice. I'm very happy with it. I mean, this inner muscle here, it's quad, that is very overdeveloped, but I like that on a lot of my models and I usually keep it like that. It's a good face mesh. This is from Z-Builder. The face is totally different and some other proportions as well, but most of the work came from Z-Builder. Almost done with my coffee. I need to finish it because this is one of those like fancy heated mugs. And at the very, very bottom, obviously it's where the heater is. So it gets really, really hot. So if I forget about the coffee, it cooks into like a little puck. So I need to finish this before it gets too hot. Whew, that was already really hot. Okay, excuse me. Well, I would say this is a very, very successful 30 minutes, yeah? So right now I'm kind of just looking at the overall forms and stuff and seeing what I need to play with. There's a lot of things shape-wise that I think could be improved, and so I'll kind of talk about that as I go. A lot of you guys are returners, so thank you, community, for showing up. I was like hanging out with y'all. If you're new and lurking and shy, but you have questions, I encourage you to be brave and to ask. As far as I'm remembering. I don't think I've ever been mean to someone asking a question. So if there's anything about whether like how I got into art or what my plans are with this design, a lot of my students ask me like how I know what the next step is. So I'm always happy to talk about that. I try to be pretty transparent in my process while I sculpt, but I'm not saying everything. So there's always more to talk about. Taylor says, when you mention ballet, that makes sense to me, right? Oh my goodness, ballerinas are absolutely shredded. Like, my goodness. And honestly, right now, she could still be a lot more toned. Alrighty, so let's go into this next 30-minute section here, and then that will bring us pretty close to the end of this stream. Again, today is a really short stream because I am headed out after this to bale a bunch of hay because I need to stock up for the winter. And honestly, I'm doing it a little bit late, being December, but a lot of hay suppliers kind of like had really good seasons, so there's been lots and lots and lots of hay, so I haven't had to like rush or really highly prioritize it. But it's December and the next cutting isn't till, goodness, June or May, so I need to get about 5 months worth. Alrighty. Let's work on this. So we got 30 minutes, and this next 30 minutes I'm going to really adjust and push the forms here. I have a lot of ideas, and it's missing that like special extra detail, like small details, but I don't want to add any of those until I've really nailed down these base forms in the silhouette. So let's go ahead and do that. I am really happy with this progress though, and we're going to add a little stamp here to our story. So she'll go right here. And let's keep going. First things first, I think that the wings should be higher and more forward. Excellent. I'm not super pressed exactly how they fit on her back because I'm going to be adjusting that with the pose and whatnot. It is important that her hair isn't underneath her wings and that sits on top though. Just makes more sense. Can make her hair a bit shorter and with these bigger waves. There we go. Next thing is her hair could definitely be a bit more visually interesting, and let's go ahead and do that, add some small asymmetrical details. But first, a comment from Aloha. Aloha says, I'm not sure how viable it is for printing or if it's against what you're going for. Don't worry about disclaimers, just say what you mean. I know you guys have good intentions. Aloha says, I'm just wondering how you go about creating those transparent style wings and the reference on the left. So what you could do is you could print this model in a translucent resin and then just leave that part of the model unpainted. So I've seen people do that a lot with like pretty high degrees of success. So yeah. Yeah, I've done a lot of painting and printing my models and just models in general, so I have a lot of different tips and tricks and ideas, so I love questions like that. I also find it's usually like the most polite people that are with like the best suggestions that give like the most disclaimers and stuff of like, you know, just like, I know you guys aren't you're trying your best to be just being sweet and not being like you're telling me what to do or whatever. But it's so funny because like the people that are rude are the ones that don't give disclaimers usually, and they just have bad ideas. It doesn't happen very often, and honestly, they usually don't hang around very long because I just kind of boop. Alright, so I would like this to be a little more free-flowing. So we're going to start pulling some of these strands of hair down across her face. It's amazing how far just a couple asymmetrical details will go. And I'm able to affect just one strand of hair at a time because I'm using the Move Topological brush, and this mesh right here has multiple pieces. So you can see the different colors here. Each one is a different polygroup within the subtool. And if you don't speak ZBrush, that just means it's a part within a part. That's all. Sorry, now I'm going to push her part over a bit. So I don't think the center part is suiting her as much. Yeah, see how much more interesting this is already. I get through and make sure that I get all my main forms done pretty quickly, and after that, it's about pushing those shapes to be more interesting. I swear I'm not getting sick again. I just do not have a voice today. Oh my gosh. Alrighty. Goodness, this is beautiful. This is gonna be one of my favorite fairies I've made. You know, I really haven't made one in so long, and usually my skill set sees a pretty significant bump every like 8 months or so. And that's just because I do this every day. And that being said, if I don't like dramatically improve in like every 8 months, I'm not keeping track. I'm not too worried about that. I honestly think that always like pushing to like improve and grow as an artist is a little overrated. Just create consistently and it will come. Create consistently and thoughtfully. Sorry, now I'm kind of going through this little leaf decoration I have and adding a little more visual interest here as well by making these shapes all different sizes. I want to have a pretty natural flow. She's looking a little birds of paradise-y here, and I'm okay with it. Aloha says, the reuse of the wing subtool and accessories all across the body is amazing, by the way. Big fan. Thank you. I am honestly a little shocked at just how well it worked. It's just the same. So if anyone missed the beginning part of this stream, I just took the wings and just duplicated them everywhere. Everything is a wing except for the bodice and her hair. This is a wing. These are wings. These are wings. The same piece over and over again. B says, the more I try and improve actively is when I feel the worst. That's very common. It's because you're seeking out flaws in your work all the time instead of like being your own biggest fan. And I understand it's not all about like sunshine and rainbows necessarily, but like there's a balance, and especially in your own like creative works, I find that's a little bit of kindness to yourself goes a long way. B continues, when I doodle and just free flow, I always improve faster and more towards the style I'm aiming at. My brain is backwards. No, it's actually, it makes a lot of sense. It really does. Something I read recently is like our brains are wired to keep us alive, not to keep us happy. And it's like, oh, what does that mean? And it's like, well, that's why we have a negativity bias and we really enjoy zeroing in on what went wrong with things, because back in like caveman days, that's what kept us alive. But we don't need to do that anymore. So there's some unlearning that has to happen there. Non-sleeper says, please stay well. We need our Mia to fix to help kickstart creativity. Yeah, of course, I'm not getting sick. My voice is just being uncooperative today. I think I've gotten through most of it. B says, no, I'm just my harsh critique. I hate everything I do, the artist way. That's what I'm saying. Like you gotta unlearn it. And that is a negativity bias, 100%. Being extra self-critical and picking apart small things. Yeah, believe me, I've done so much reading on this because I'm like, why do we think this way? I'm like, why is this the default? Because it's what you're talking about is very, very common. In fact, I think it's just the norm as far as like other creatives and stuff. And then some of that has also been romanticized too, of just like the grind with art and working too hard and that kind of stuff. a bit more roundness to these shoulder pieces. So I'm going to start finding that form. There we go. And then this bit as well, I want this bodice to be a bit shorter. I like that it's very much a clearly different texture than the rest of the model. I haven't decided what kind of neckline I want. Maybe more of a sweetheart neckline. Yeah, I like that. Although, so same thing we spoke about in the chat last stream too. Yeah, it's very similar. Allow yourself to make bad art and it'll ease that stress you have when working on big projects. Absolutely. And it also kind of prevents you from critiquing your work while you're working on it. That's a really common problem I have with my students, is when they're working through a project and they get really frustrated, because you have to know the difference between working on a project and understanding the work in progress phase versus evaluating a finished product. It's very common that my students will look at their art that they're just working on, like it is not finished, and they will judge it as if it's a finished piece. And that's a fine practice to have if you've done it hundreds and hundreds of times and you know how to do like everything in balance, right? But for like my new students and stuff, I really discourage them from doing that, because they almost always just end up being too harsh on themselves. I'm kind of enjoying making this silhouette line here on the wings a little asymmetrical and a little wobbly. So you guys can kind of see this left form here and right. It's just changing the silhouette slightly, but it's becoming a much stronger model. And the non-sleepers being very sweet, reminding you guys to like the stream if you enjoy it. If you do want to tune back in, you can remember my schedule. It's Thursday through Monday, starting 11 a.m. Eastern time. If you don't remember that, subscribe and YouTube will just tell you for me. And B's talking about, like, yeah, the valley of suck, gotta push through it. Yeah. 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 See, that's my thing. A lot of my students do this too, where it's just like, I actually more agree with like non-sleeper, like enjoy the suck, or like it's not even like sucky, it's just fun. But like pushing through it, I think like even the mindset of like you're enduring the negative part of your art can be very tiring. But I think I know what you're talking about, B. I've seen your art. You're a fantastic artist. You know what you're doing. I'm more so talking to all my students who are lurking in the stream too. A little earlier this year, I think it was about a month ago, I did a live stream where I worked on this magical pangolin, and that's a really good stream for you guys to rewatch if you're interested in like this art process and like trying to like find out this balance of like good enough and like what's the next step and like not being frustrated, because I had to do a lot of like discovering of forms during that. And if I had any negative critique in my brain while that was going, that would have absolutely fallen apart on stream. I definitely laughed throughout a lot of the stream, and I mentioned like a creative meltdown, but it was all in jest 100%. It was definitely one of those moments that for me that I'm glad that I've kind of really practiced in having like this softer internal dialogue as I create. Because if not, that model would have never gotten finished. And B says, "I'm okay. I'm getting there though." No, you're a fantastic creator, and it's been fun. Like, because I'm more up to date like on your socials and stuff, and like I'm really excited to make my Christmas tree part to the present mimic that you made. All right, so we're still working through here, and now let's start working more on this tutu. I think this is fun, like the shapes I have back here, but it's a bit It's a bit of a mess, and there's a little too much going on. So I'm actually going to delete these. And we're going to create this a little more thoughtfully, a little more intentionally. So I'm going to move this piece, the back here. And B says, I've been waiting for the sneak peek. Oh, I know. I haven't even started it yet. I'll probably start and finish it in the same session. Being sick is the worst. It just puts everything behind, but it'll still get done. It's going to be awesome. Maybe I'll do a special live stream where I work on that. Yeah, I haven't talked about that on the stream yet, but kind of a fun thing for everyone's hanging out and watching. B and I are actually doing a little collaboration for the holidays, and we're doing a set of mimics. They did this lovely present, and then I'm doing a Christmas tree. So that's gonna be a lot of fun. I think I want this to fan out, and it's going to be very long. Let me go ahead and take these forms up here. I'm actually going to merge them down and make this a bit shorter. You make this shorter and smaller. Rotate it out, even smaller. So it's going to match this shoulder piece a bit better, and then I'm going to have this more tutu-like shape constructed just underneath it. So I can duplicate this and then return this form. There we are. I'm going to go into my 3D Gizmo modifiers here and add a little bit of a taper. How cute is that? And I need it to improve this a touch as well. I think mirroring that and flipping that piece around will add some nice texture to the front. A lot of this is going to move when she's posed because it'll be such an active, like, again, she'll be dancing. But I want to make sure that I have all these forms figured out. All right, it's looking pretty nice. It's a lot more clear as well. There we are. Beautiful. B says, now the question is, do I want to see it when it's made or when it's done? Yeah, I'm not sure. I guess it's gonna be up to you. I might stream it, I might not. Non-sleeper says, I suck enough for the both of us, B. Cannot do bodies well having a small hand on hard surface. Hey, it is a long, long process. There's a lot to learn with art, my goodness. So be nice to yourself. B says, honestly, the human body, just a mess of things. It's so true. There is so much to tackle there. And like, I always giggle to myself when I have a new student, and I always ask them what their goals are for art, and they lay out, like, you know, making characters and stuff. Like, okay, cool. And so we get through some assignments and stuff, and I'm like, okay, once we get through the fundamentals, I ask them, is there something you want to focus on? And they always say this very broad statement, I want to learn anatomy. And I'm like, that's like saying I want to learn math. It's just like, it's so broad. I'm like, okay, we're gonna pick an arm. We're gonna work from there. This cracks me up. Fee says, you know, a fun little thing would be alter the colors for different seasons. Blues, whites for winter, orange, red for fall. You get 4 models for the price of 1. That is very, very true. I mean, I wouldn't sell them as separate because it'd still be the same model here. But that is something that people could do when they're painting this. Oh, this has been a nice stream. Thank you guys for hanging out with me on this Friday. I've decided that I'm not going to stream tomorrow. Usually I'm very consistent. I always stream Thursday through Monday, but tomorrow is Saturday and my birthday. I'll be turning 28. So I'm really excited about that. I don't know what I'm going to do that day yet. I have nothing planned, which honestly is my favorite kind of plan. There's no plan. I'm just going to kind of wing it. Eat some good food, sleep in. It'll be nice. I'm not sure if I'm going to keep these funny little shorts or not. We'll see. I might add like a fun texture to them. B says, well, happy birthday. Thank you. Aloha says, before you end the stream, can we get a signature chef hat variant? Perhaps. I appreciate the early birthday wishes. Alright, I'm gonna go through here now and start detailing this bodice a bit more clearly. All these lines that I'm adding here are what's going to catch the paint. So everything that I design is to be 3D printed. I've been doing this for quite some time now. I keep saying I've been doing it for 5 years, but pretty soon here I'll be doing it for 6. I'm not really following any like specific rule sets here while I'm detailing this. Just whatever kind of flows with the mesh best. A lot of the smoothness in the lines here is achieved from having Lazy Mouse turned on. I highly recommend it. So right now I'm still kind of pushing those proportions and really seeing what is going to read the strongest and be the most visually interesting. I think we've about found it here. And I haven't decided how these little decorations on her wrist are actually going to connect. I'm going to like tie on with some twine or just kind of leave it like a blend into her skin. Haven't decided yet. All I know for now is I really like the silhouette that it creates. gonna make her legs a touch longer here. They're already quite long, but beautiful. All right, I think we're about done with the overall design here. I don't have any like those special fine details quite yet, so I'm thinking about maybe adding a couple flowers here and there. I think that'd be nice. Let's go ahead and add some of those special details I was talking about. I think pink will be a really nice contrasting color here. Let's go ahead and set the brush a little bit more by default by going to brush, our depth modifier. There we go. These are the little things that start to make a model look special. But it's important that you really get all your shapes confident and clear before you start adding these tiny details like this. I think it'd be nice if she had some flowers nestled in her hair. And I might create some sort of footwear for her right now. To do this, I'm going to lower the subdivision level, and go with my mask lasso brush and turn off perspective. There we go, just a little like foot grabby thing. It's easy to forget about the feet. There we go, it's making the model look a little more complete. Just like everything else, this will need some special attention to all the different forms. Right now we're kind of finding that primary shape. There we are. Almost done with all these little details here. Now I'm going to add a little bit of poly paint to the center of these roses. All I'm going to do is come in here and then darken the centers. Just adds a nice little bit of depth. Alright, my 30-minute timer just went off, and then we'll do a little review of the progress that we've made. Isn't it amazing how much depth just a little bit of dark color adds? Alright, there we are. So in this last hour, we've gone from the space mesh here on the top left. Our first 30 minutes, we had a pretty good idea, and then we explored a lot of those ideas in this additional 30 minutes here. Pretty happy. Non-sleeper says, Mia, your workflow is amazing to watch. So natural, not forced. Your explanations are so helpful. Thank you. Oh, I'm so glad. And then non-sleeper said, with unintentional caps lock, do I have to make the hair flowers larger so they print? I don't. So kind of a rule of thumb for me is like, if you can see the eyebrows and the eyelashes 3D printed, anything bigger than that, you're totally good to go. Alora says, looks great. The subtle additions of hair parting and flowers really make it whole, doesn't it? If you spend the extra time to make sure that your primary and secondary forms are really strong, like interesting silhouette, interesting fundamentals, and then when you go in and add these small details like flowers, like it's the details always get the credit for making the model special, but really it is just like the icing on top, you know? I mean, it all has to be there, but it's that foundation that makes this design successful. So yeah. Well, this has been a pretty booking stream. It's only been an hour and we have quite the beautiful character on our hands, don't we? The next step here is honestly to pose, but I've been toying with a new workflow in Character Creator 4, one that my husband's been actually toying with and possibly going to take over. So this might just be a really quick live stream, which that happens sometimes. Again, I'm not going to be streaming tomorrow because it's my birthday and I just want to hang out. But also, there's a very small chance that I might do it anyway because I'm very undecided on what I'm going to do tomorrow. Might happen, might not. We'll see. Well, thank you guys for hanging out with me on this Friday. I think I'm going to call it good here. This is a really solid hour. Probably send this to my students as just like a reference of like how to build forms quickly. Gosh, I'm just like surprised. This is a good one. Hello says, happy birthday. Thank you for the early wishes. Take care and thanks for another great stream. Yeah, you're so welcome. I'm gonna do a quick little screenshot here I can share after the stream is over. Alrighty. If you guys aren't already, I encourage you guys to check out my Patreon or become a free member at the very least. That's where the 3D printable models of this will be shared. But until then, I guess I will see you guys in a couple days. So thank you guys so much for hanging out, and I hope you have a lovely Friday and beginning of your weekend. Take care. Bye.